Novia here, and welcome to my review of my TMNT, reviews. This is the fourth review that I've done on the TMNT movies. This time is on the CGI TMNT movie that came out in 2007. And well, yeah, their opinions about this movie vary. There's some those who love it, and there's those who hate it, and there's those who are in between that think the movie's okay. Now, this particular movie that I'm talking about, my feelings have been mixed for the longest time, considering I've waited so many years from 1993 to 2007 for another Ninja Turtles movie, and I was disappointed what I was given in 2007. I mean, this was the second Ninja Turtles movie in a row that did not have the Shredder, and not to mention, it was the first Ninja Turtles movie at the time that it came out in over a decade. The only thing that's disappointing, though, about this movie, I've watched it, right before I started this stream. I've just finished it. There is good things about this movie. I don't think it's a bad movie. Honestly, it isn't like Ninja Turtles 2 or Ninja Turtles 3. I mean, the people that worked on this film, it felt like they actually cared about the source material they were working on. And I feel like this movie was setting up a trilogy of films that would follow. Now, one thing I will say about this, in 2020, I am surprised how well this movie holds up 13 years later. I mean, the CGI in this film is no Pixar, mind you, but it's amazing just how well this movie has held up in 13 years. It still looks good to this day, the CG, and it's aged pretty well. Now, as for the character designs for the Turtles, which I think I'm going to address this now, considering there's those who like these designs and there's those who absolutely detest them, that hate them with a passion. I don't hate these designs. I never did. I mean, I think these designs look pretty good. They're one of the better designs for the Turtles, in the movies. And I feel like they work really well. The only thing I don't like is how these designs influence the 2003 series. Like in the final season, in Turtles Forever, they changed the design for the 2003 Turtles to look more like these Turtles. So I guess it's one thing I don't like about these designs is its influence on, other media at the time. But there's one thing this movie does do right. That Ninja Turtles 2 and 3, don't do. The Turtles use their weapons, which is an obvious thing that should be the first thing that anyone would probably mention. The Turtles are featured in more than one fight scene together, unlike Ninja Turtles 3. The plot, even though not great, feels like a actual plot that you would actually see in a Ninja Turtles cartoon or comic. This feels like TMNT in its core. So that's one thing I can say about the positives. I think the voice cast they chose for the Turtles, along with all the other characters, was really good. Now, I know it's Peter Laird said that this movie takes place in its own continuity, though the director of this film said the opposite, that it actually takes place in the continuity of the first, 3 movies. Because, one thing about this movie that would be unclear if you were new to the franchise, what continuity does this take place in? Because, it's not really clear when you first watch it that is this a sequel to the 2003 series? Does it take place in that universe? Does it take place in the 90s Ninja Turtles universe? Or is this its own continuity? I personally view TMNT as a soft reboot of the first 3 movies. I think only really the first film is really acknowledged, and the other 2 movies are pretty much ignored. If there's one thing about this movie that I will say I do like about it, I do like the look of it. It is a cool looking movie. I even though I hate copying what the nostalgic critics said about this movie, I do think he was correct in that aspect that this is a cool looking movie. Honestly, it's dark. It's the style. It really does feel like this is an actual city that the turtles would actually live in, and it feels like this movie is much closer to the dark roots of the first one movie. And not to mention, the turtles themselves. The only thing I don't like about this movie, though, I would say at least one things I don't like is, we definitely, got, Splinter voice acting was great in this film, which it's such a shame that this is his like last performance. I don't remember what happened. I think he died when this movie was being made, so he didn't completely did all of Splinter's lines. So another voice actor had to, come in to finish, his dialogue. The only thing, though, I'm sorry, I'm just thinking because it's been a long time since I've seen this film. Prior to this review, it actually has been even longer that I've seen this film than TMNT 3. Like I haven't seen this film since 2009. If I had to be honest with you, because my feelings, have always been mixed. I mean, I appreciate it more now watching it, 11 years later. I could see more like the positives of this film because as someone that was waiting for years and years for a new Ninja Turtles movie, and this is what I got. I was disappointed, but in my opinion, this is so much better than the movies that we got after it. Because unlike the Michael Bay movies, which are clearly corporate cash cow movies, this feels like a movie that was actually made by people that actually respected, the source material. And this movie, it felt like they were setting up, a trilogy, which, if you were to research, there is evidence that there was a trilogy planned for, this movie, which unfortunately never came to fruition. Ninja Turtles, is a franchise that has had many reboots over the years, but I feel like this is like the first reboot on screen. At least I would call it a soft reboot. Another thing I did like about this movie, the attention to detail towards the end of the movie, which showcased like the scepter from Ninja Turtles 3, the Shredder's mask, the TJRI, canister, which is from Ninja Turtles 2. I don't know if this was intentional, but there was some homage to the original trilogy in this film towards the end of it. Nostalgia Critic was an idiot. Yeah, he really was an idiot. Yeah, he really was. I mean, that guy's voice for Splinter was great. It's unfortunately he passed away, while the movie was being made. Honestly, I think the Nostalgia Critic was an idiot when he reviewed this movie. I think this movie is far better than he gave it credit for. I know this is not really the most like Ninja Turtles movie because I know it's mixed on the fandom. There's those who really love it, and there's those who really hate it, and there's those in between. This is like the only Ninja Turtles movie that isn't, live action that was released in theaters. There's only one other Ninja Turtles movie that, wasn't a live action film, but that's Turtles Forever. And, well, that was never released in theaters. So we can't really count that, honestly. And I'm actually really surprised that this film did not get a sequel, considering it did do well in the box office. Considering it made more than its budget back. It made twice its budget. TMNT is one particular film that I think, I'd recommend for TMNT fans to watch if they want to see something that, especially if they got into Ninja Turtles, during the early 2010s. The reason I'm speaking the early 2010s because some of my audience here are probably people that started off with the 2012 series or 2003. It depends, how old they were when those respective shows came out. So that's why I'm saying I probably would recommend only the first Ninja Turtles movie and this one, despite its problems. Like, another criticism I think that could be thrown at this movie is the villains are not really that great. And again, they're forgettable. I mean, they do feel like they belong in the Ninja Turtles universe, unlike those guys from the third Ninja Turtles movie. I mean, seriously, those villains sucked. I do like the design for the Foot Clan in this film, and this was the first, theatrical Ninja Turtles movie that gave us the appearance of Karai, who is an important part of TMNT lore. No matter what incarnation, Karai is usually very important. She's like Shredder's second in command, depending on the continuity. And I do like the look of these characters. They look like they are these characters. I recognized them immediately. I mean, Casey Jones, I feel like, he was done well in this film. April, for some reason, learns how to fight. I'm not going to make a big deal out of that. Despite this movie's short runtime, I do feel like it does do the job of giving us a decent, movie out of it. I mean, this is not an amazing movie by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, but if you compare it to the movies that came after, Ninja Turtles 1, this movie is a masterpiece by comparison. I mean, let's be real, people. Let's be real. Ninja Turtles 2 and Ninja Turtles 3 were hot garbage. I mean, this movie at least, tried to bring the Turtles back to their roots, their darker roots. Unlike, the second film, which sucked to dumb down the Turtles, well, this film, actually brought them back to their darker roots and actually set up some really good stuff later, which never came to fruition. Oh, yeah, I agree. This movie, the Michael Bay movies are fucking garbage. And honestly, after seeing those films and then coming back to this, okay, whatever my feelings towards this movie are, even they're still a little bit mixed because I waited so long between Ninja Turtles 3 and this. I would take this over the Michael Bay films because at least this film, respects the source material. At least the Turtles are treated with respect. And at least the Turtles, feel like themselves. It's just, there's some things I just cannot overlook in this movie. I don't know about you, but I feel like Leonardo is a complete dickhead in this movie. The way he treats, everyone. And especially, Raphael. It's like we're expected to believe that Leonardo is in the right in almost every instance. And I feel like Leonardo was kind of an asshole in this whole movie. I don't know if people would understand this. Leonardo in every other Ninja Turtles continuity he isn't this arrogant asshole like he is in this film. And that's, one thing that kind of helped ruin this movie for me. Because Leonardo is one of the lead characters in this movie. This is essentially Leonardo and Raphael, the movie. And Donatello and Michelangelo are essentially on the wayside. So if your favorite turtle is either Donatello or Michelangelo, you're shit out of luck in this film. And the reason I say this is because, they barely do anything in this movie. And you could probably almost remove them completely from the film and not much would have changed, considering they don't really do that much. Oh. Oh God. I don't know about that. We'll know when I come back to those films. Oh God. Ninja Turtles, like example, for those of you who are watching this, what's your favorite turtle? Let's just type right now, so I know if you know what I'm talking about. Because my favorite turtle is Raphael, but For me, the thing I watch Ninja Turtles for is for all four turtles. I want all four turtles to be able to do something. Even though Donatello in the first Ninja Turtles movie isn't given as much to do as the other turtles, he still feels important. Ninja Turtles 2, all the turtles, are important to the story. Even though Leonardo and Mikey are not as important as Donatello and Raphael, it's still, is a movie that's enjoyable if you're a fan of those two turtles. Ninja Turtles 3, it's an absolute abomination. Doesn't matter what turtle is your favorite. That movie fucked them all over, and it's even worse if you're a fan of Michelangelo. This movie, I feel like it does have that problem where Donatello and Michelangelo feel more like side characters, when I feel like they should have been as much of a main character as Leonardo and Raphael. And also, another thing that I don't really like about this film is I feel like Leonardo is completely out of character. Because compared to other incarnations of the Turtles, Leonardo is not an asshole. Leonardo, doesn't act as arrogant. Even if him and Raphael, are in the worst of times and they argue amongst each other, Leonardo would never say, "I'm better than you," which is something that I always hated, even my first viewing. Because I don't think Leonardo would ever say that, to any of his brothers. And him saying that to Raphael really rubbed me the wrong way. Because Leonardo is not a dickhead like this movie kind of portrays him as. I mean, I'm not alone. I can't be alone when I think that this movie makes Leonardo out to be a complete, asshole to everyone. I just hated the way his character was characterized in this movie. I really did. I don't know what they were thinking by doing this. And it's very difficult to sympathize with Leo in this film, because each turtle, they all have their differences and they're all supposed to be relatable. But this movie made me more sympathetic to Raph than Leonardo, because Leonardo was treating everyone like crap. And I just hated it. And I feel like there was no real payoff at the end of the movie. It just felt really forced, with Leonardo and Raphael. Even though in the franchise, Leonardo and Raphael, there's always tension between them. I mean, it's something that's a staple of this franchise at this point, that there's always like it seems like at one point they're always gonna butt heads. But in this film, it just felt like it favored Leonardo way too much. Oh yeah, he definitely is an asshole. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I mean, that's what I really hated, because here's the thing. My favorite turtles is Raphael and Leonardo. Those are my favorite turtles. And having Raphael, basically overwhelmingly want to root for him, and Leonardo who's supposed to be the calm one, who's supposed to be the rational one, acting like the asshole and being arrogant. It's like, that just doesn't suit well with me. I don't know what these people were thinking. I really don't, because I don't remember a single incarnation where Leonardo acted this way. Yes, in the first Ninja Turtles movie, Leonardo did act a little impulsively, but here's the difference between that movie and this. Leonardo in that movie did not know what to do. He was suddenly forced to lead his brothers without Splinter's guidance. And Leonardo genuinely regretted what he said in the first movie. This movie, we don't see any sign of Leonardo regretting what he did. I mean, seriously, I don't understand how anyone could actually defend this characterization of Leonardo. I really don't. How anyone can defend it. And I know I've talked about it for a good chunk of this review. I mean, Rumble Raph, agrees with me. And he's one of the biggest opponents of this movie when it comes to the way Leonardo is portrayed. I mean, he's just a complete dickhead. I mean, why would anyone want to follow Leonardo in this movie if you actually, saw him treat his brothers like crap? Because he really did in this movie. He didn't really treat his brothers well. And I feel like Raphael should not have been the only, turtle to actually turn away from Leo. It should have been all of them. that they just don't appreciate Leo just disappearing out of nowhere, then coming, the train, then come back and then act like nothing happened. I don't know. I think there was potential with the story of this movie, but Leonardo being a complete asshole was something that doesn't suit well with me, especially people who are Leonardo fans. I'm pretty sure they were offended when they watched this movie back in the day, because Leonardo saying "I'm better than you" is not something that he would ever say in any continuity. I don't care if Leonardo is in a pissed off mood. He'd never say that about any of his brothers. I remember when I watched that in the theater back in 2007, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, Leonardo would never say that. I was rooting for Raphael to beat his fucking ass, and he did beat his ass. Which, that fight scene, one of the things that people talk about that are really good about this movie, that fight between Leo and Raph, that's like the best fight scene of the whole movie, and one of the best fight scenes of the entire franchise. It's well animated. The tension, it is like well done. I mean, the movie, that scene looks really cool. It really did. If you watch that scene out of context, it's a cool looking scene. It's just, that's the problem with this film. It's like the best scene of the whole movie. I mean, this movie doesn't bore you if you were to watch it. I mean, it is not that long of a movie. I mean, the pacing doesn't feel too slow or too fast, so that's one good thing this movie has going for it. It's just, at times, this movie does kind of feel like a video game, at least at certain points. Not to say it looks like one. I'm just saying it does in some scenes of the movie, like the opening scene and one of the end scenes when the turtles are fighting an army of foot. It looks like, a video game level. Just saying. I'm not saying that, as a real criticism, because that's just my personal opinion about it. Let's see. I'm waiting for some more comments. 5 people. I mean, this movie. I mean, the voice cast, like I said earlier in this review, I think it's well done. They had an all-star cast. I think they did pretty well. I mean, I think they got the chick from Buffy the Vampire Slayer to voice April, which I think she did a competent job. The guy who voiced Casey, I felt, was competent. The Turtles, I think, were all well cast as well. They all, each voice actor fit the character's respective personalities. And as much as I hate to say this, the guy who voiced Leonardo, his voice does fit the character that he's playing, but Leonardo, even when he's not acting like an asshole, still sounds like an arrogant prick. So, yeah, I don't think they're my favorite voice cast of the Turtles, in my opinion. I think the best, voices of all the cast of the Turtles was Raphael. I think the guy who voiced him, did him really well. He fits the character. I don't know. I really wish we were in an alternate world where there was a sequel to this movie made, because there was a lot of potential with a trilogy, honestly, which they, unfortunately, a few years later, Nickelodeon would be buying the franchise. And of course, the sequels were abandoned when a reboot was announced back in late 2008 and early 2009. So this, essentially, the sequel of this movie was killed when they announced a reboot, unfortunately. Would the sequels have been as good, as the ideas that we hear about? Because there's talks that the sequels, one of them would have adapted City at War, and the third one would have introduced the Triceratons. I mean, there are prequel comics, if you care to know, that actually do explain certain events in this movie and on how the Turtles got to where they were prior to this movie coming out. So there is some stuff that is explained, and the Triceratons are actually officially part of this universe. It's just that they don't show up in this movie at all. So yeah, honestly, I don't really have that much more to say about this film. The TMNT CGI movie, it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't think it's not as bad as I remembered it being. I mean, anything looks better than Ninja Turtles 3 after you fucking suffered through that abomination. So yeah, I actually do think that I would recommend, for those of you who haven't seen the movie yet, I'd see it for yourself and judge it. I don't think, TMNT, is a great Ninja Turtles movie, but I do think it's one of the better Ninja Turtles movies. I think it's better than Ninja Turtles 2. It's better than the third one. It's certainly better than a piece of shit Michael Bay Abominations. So yeah, I do would recommend anyone to check them out who is a TMNT fan, at least to see them for themselves on what they think of this movie. I think it's a cool looking movie. I think it's a movie that could be very enjoyable if you were to watch it. I just don't think it's the best TMNT movie out there. I still think the best TMNT movie out there is still the first one. And Ninja Turtles 2, I probably prefer that over this one, if I had to be honest, primarily because, you know, I I prefer, some of the plot elements of that movie over this, and Leonardo is not a dickhead. Yeah, I would take this over Ninja Turtles 3. In fact, I probably would like to view this as the real Ninja Turtles 3 and just ignore the third movie altogether because the third movie is an abomination. Anyway, I know this stream is shorter than my others, but there isn't more I could really say about the CGI TMNT movie without dragging this out. So, guys, this is Darcenovia over and out. And, well, see you guys next time with my next review of the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles movie, the first one. Because I have a lot to say about especially the first film, considering the history with that film. Later, everyone. May the force be with you, and see you guys next time with another video. Later.